Oh, goodness. Did she really just do that? How completely embarrassing.
Chapter 1. The glass shattered before Elena even realized she had knocked it over. Crystal exploded across marble, drawing every eye in the Onyx lounge toward her table. Conversations did not just pause, they died. It was the kind of silence that made her skin crawl. The kind that said she did not belong here, had never belonged here, and would never belong here, no matter how hard she pretended. Her friend Sarah grabbed her wrist. "Girl, relax. It is just a drink." But it was not just a drink. Not in a place like this, where the chandeliers cost more than Elena's yearly rent. Where men in tailored suits spoke in whispers that moved money across continents, and where the wrong move could end a career before it started. She was a freelance photographer, barely scraping by in a cramped studio apartment in Queens. This Manhattan hotspot was not her world. The bartender appeared instantly, cleaning the mess without meeting her eyes. Professional, efficient, dismissive. Elena's chest tightened. She should not have come. "Stop overthinking," Sarah said, already flagging down another round. "We are celebrating, remember? You landed that magazine feature. Tonight, we toast to you finally getting recognized." Across the lounge, someone laughed. A low, mocking sound of people who had never worried about rent or broken cameras or whether their next paycheck would cover groceries. Elena's fingers curled against her thigh. She hated how small this place made her feel. She hated the familiar ache that came with being an Omega in a room full of people who saw her as soft, forgettable, and easily dismissed. "Check out the Ice Queen," Sarah's cousin Kevin said, nodding toward the far end of the bar. Elena followed his gaze. The woman sat alone, perfectly still, like she had been carved from stone. Her dark suit was tailored so precisely, it looked like armor. Her hair was pulled back without a single strand out of place. Her posture did not suggest confidence, it commanded it. She did not sip her drink, did not check her phone, and did not fidget or scan the room like everyone else. She just existed. And somehow, that was enough to make the space around her feel smaller, quieter, and more dangerous. "That is Victoria Sterling," Kevin whispered, and even her name felt heavy. "She runs half the shipping contracts on the East Coast. Word is she owns 3 senators and a federal judge. Nobody messes with her." Elena's stomach dropped. She had heard stories, rumors really, about the Sterling Syndicate, the kind of organization that operated in shadows, that made problems disappear, and that answered to no one. But she had never imagined the woman behind it would look like this. Cold, untouchable, and alone. Victoria's eyes never moved, but Elena felt the weight of her presence like gravity. "I bet you will not kiss her," Sarah said suddenly, grinning. The table went quiet. "What?" Elena breathed. "I dare you." Sarah leaned forward, eyes bright with alcohol and mischief. "Kiss the Ice Queen right on the cheek. Show everyone you are not afraid." Kevin laughed nervously. "No, that is suicide. You do not touch that woman." "Exactly why she should do it," Sarah shot back. "Nobody expects it. Nobody would dare. That is what makes it perfect." Elena's pulse hammered in her throat. She looked at Victoria again, at the severe lines of her face, the controlled stillness, and the aura of someone who could end lives with a phone call. "No way," Elena said. "Come on." Sarah's voice dropped, turning soft and coaxing. "You are always playing it safe, always hiding. You just landed your first real feature, and you are still acting like you do not deserve to be here." Prove you are more than what people assume. Prove you are brave." The words hit harder than they should have, because Sarah was right. Elena did hide, did shrink, and did let the world tell her she was fragile, forgettable, and less than. She stood before she could stop herself. Her legs felt like water as she crossed the lounge. Every step stretched longer and heavier, like walking through concrete. The air thickened. Conversations dropped to murmurs. Someone near the door straightened, their hand moving toward their jacket. Victoria did not look up. Elena's heart screamed at her to turn back, to sit down, and to disappear into the crowd and forget this ever happened. But her pride, that stupid, stubborn Omega pride that had gotten her through years of rejection and dismissal, pushed her forward. She stopped beside Victoria's chair. Up close, the woman was even more terrifying. Sharp cheekbones, skin like porcelain, and eyes the color of winter storms, focused on nothing and everything at once. Elena leaned down, her breath catching. She pressed a soft, brief kiss to Victoria's cheek. The room froze. Victoria did not move, did not flinch, and did not even blink. But something shifted. A tension so sharp, Elena felt it in her bones, like the moment before lightning strikes. "I am sorry," Elena whispered, her voice barely audible. "It was a dare. I did not mean—" She fled before Victoria could respond, her heart slamming against her ribs and shame burning her face. Behind her, nervous laughter broke out. Sarah grabbed her arm, pulling her back to the table, grinning like they had just robbed a bank. But Victoria sat very, very still. Because the moment Elena touched her skin, Victoria smelled something that did not belong in a bar. It did not belong in this city. It did not belong anywhere outside the grave she had been mourning for years. Blood. Old blood. Familiar blood. The kind that haunted her dreams and made her wake gasping in the dark. Her hand tightened around her glass, her knuckles white. Across the room, one of her men, Arthur, her most trusted lieutenant, burst through the entrance, his face pale and his eyes wide with urgency. He crossed the floor in seconds, leaning close enough that only she could hear. "Boss," he whispered. "They found the doctor." Victoria's chest went cold. The corrupt doctor who had falsified death records. The one who had claimed her Omega mate died in childbirth. The one who had vanished with 3 infants and sold them into silence, erasing them from existence like they had never been born. "Where?" Victoria's voice did not rise and did not waver. "Dead," Arthur said. "But he left a message before he died." Victoria's jaw clenched. "It has a name on it," Arthur continued, his voice dropping even lower. "Elena Vance." Victoria's gaze snapped across the lounge, locking onto the young woman who had just kissed her. The Omega who smelled like ghosts, like stolen children, and like the past clawing its way back from the dead. Chapter 2. Elena could not breathe. She collapsed into her seat, her hands shaking, while laughter from her friends washed over her like static. Sarah shoved another drink into her hand, already retelling the story like it was the greatest moment of the night. But Elena could not focus, could not process, and could not shake the feeling that she had just made the worst mistake of her life. Because Victoria Sterling had not reacted. No anger, no surprise, not even irritation, just stillness. The kind that felt like a predator deciding whether to strike. "Did you see her face?" Kevin laughed, but it sounded forced and nervous. "She did not even move. Ice Queen for real." Elena's stomach twisted. She looked back toward the bar, but Victoria was already surrounded. 3 men in dark suits had materialized from nowhere, forming a wall around her and blocking her from view. One of them spoke urgently into her ear. Another scanned the room like he was cataloging threats. "We should go," Elena whispered. "What? No way!" Sarah grinned. "This is just getting good." But it was not good. Every instinct Elena had, instincts honed from years of navigating spaces that did not want her, did not trust her, and did not see her, screamed that something was wrong. The air felt heavier. The bartender had stopped pouring drinks. Even the conversations around them had shifted, voices dropping to whispers and eyes darting toward the bar, toward Victoria. At the far end of the lounge, Victoria stood. The movement was slow and deliberate, and every person in the room felt it. She did not raise her voice, did not gesture, and did not need to. The bartender immediately started clearing glasses. The servers stepped back. A man near the entrance made a phone call, and within seconds, the lounge's ambient music cut off mid-note. Silence fell like a blade. Victoria said something too quiet for Elena to hear, but the men around her moved instantly. One headed toward the entrance. Another disappeared into a back hallway. The third remained at her side, his hand resting inside his jacket. Elena's pulse hammered. "We need to leave now!" Sarah finally noticed the shift, her grin fading. "Yeah, okay, maybe you are right." They stood, gathering their things. But before they could move, the man who had been speaking to Victoria crossed the lounge in long, purposeful strides. He did not stop at their table and did not acknowledge them. But as he passed, Elena caught the edge of his conversation into his phone. "Lock down the block. I want eyes on every exit. Nobody leaves without clearance." Her blood went cold. "Move!" she hissed, grabbing Sarah's arm. They pushed through the crowd toward the exit, but the door was already blocked. 2 men in suits stood there now, their arms crossed and their faces blank. They were not hostile, just present. Just enough to make it clear that leaving was not optional. "Excuse me," Elena tried, her voice shaking. One of the men glanced at her, then away, like she did not exist. Behind them, Victoria moved toward a private booth in the back, her men following like shadows. She did not look at Elena and did not acknowledge her. But somehow Elena felt the weight of her attention anyway. She felt it like a hand pressed against her spine. "What the hell is happening?" Kevin whispered. Elena did not answer because she did not know, did not understand why a simple dare, a stupid, reckless kiss, had triggered this kind of response. The man who had been speaking to Victoria returned, stopping at the bar. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then held it up to the bartender. The bartender nodded, his eyes widening slightly, and pointed directly at Elena. Her chest tightened. The man pocketed his phone and walked toward her. "Miss Vance?" His voice was calm and professional, the kind that did not leave room for argument. Elena's throat closed. "How do you know my name?" He did not answer, just gestured toward the exit. "Miss Sterling would like you to leave safely. My associate will escort you to your vehicle." "I did not drive," Elena said, hating how small her voice sounded. "Then he will call you a car." It was not a request. Sarah grabbed Elena's hand. "We are going together." The man's gaze flicked to her, then back to Elena. "Just Miss Vance." Panic spiked through Elena's veins. "No, I am not going anywhere without my friends." For the first time, the man's expression shifted, something almost like pity crossing his face. "Miss Vance, this is not a negotiation. You do not understand the situation you have walked into. For your own safety, you need to leave now." Elena's hands shook. She looked past him toward Victoria, who stood in the shadows of the private booth. Even from across the room, even with her back turned, Victoria's presence dominated the space. "What did I do?" Elena whispered. The man's jaw tightened. "You kissed the wrong person." He turned and walked away, leaving Elena standing there, her heart racing and her mind spinning. Sarah pulled her toward the door. "Come on, let's just go." But as they reached the entrance, Elena glanced back one last time. Victoria was watching her now. Their eyes met across the lounge, and something passed between them. Something Elena could not name and could not understand, but felt in every nerve. Victoria's expression did not change, but her hand moved, her fingers curling into a fist so tight the knuckles went white. Then she turned away, disappearing into the booth, and the man at the door finally let them leave. Elena stumbled onto the sidewalk, gasping for air, the night pressing down on her like a weight. "What the hell was that?" Sarah breathed. Elena did not answer because she did not know. But as a black car pulled up to the curb, unbidden and unexpected, and the driver stepped out holding a card with her name on it, Elena realized something that made her stomach drop. Victoria Sterling knew exactly who she was, and she had no idea why. Chapter 3. Victoria's office sat 30 floors above the city. Glass walls offered a view most people would kill for. She did not notice it. Her focus was locked on the file Arthur had placed on her desk, thin, worn, and stained with years of handling. Inside were documents she had memorized long ago, death certificates, hospital records, and adoption paperwork that never quite added up. And now, a name that should not exist: Elena Vance. "The doctor has been dead for 3 days," Arthur said, standing across from her. "The coroner ruled it natural causes, but the message was deliberate, left in a safe deposit box with instructions to deliver it if he did not check in weekly." Victoria's fingers traced the edge of the file. "What did it say?" Arthur hesitated. "He named 3 people. He said they were placed in families across the East Coast. He said the records were buried so deep even you would not find them. He said he did it because someone paid him enough to disappear." "Names?" Victoria said, her voice flat. "Elena Vance, Brooklyn, photographer, 24 years old, adopted at 6 months through a private agency that dissolved 2 years later." Victoria's chest constricted. 6 months, the same age her pups had been when they vanished. "The second?" she asked. "Justin Miller, Atlanta, works in tech. 24, adopted around the same time, same kind of agency." Victoria's jaw clenched. "And the third?" Arthur's expression darkened. "Still searching." The doctor did not finish the message. Just 3 names, scattered notes, and a warning. "What warning?" "That someone has been watching. Someone who knows you are looking. Someone who has been cleaning up loose ends for years." Victoria stood, crossing to the window. Below, the city glittered, indifferent to the violence hidden in its shadows. She had built her empire on control, on knowing every angle, every threat, and every move before it happened. But this was chaos. This was the past she had buried, clawing its way back, ripping open wounds she had thought had scarred over. "The Omega," she said quietly. "Elena, you are certain?" "A DNA match from the glass she touched at the bar. I had it run against the samples you have been keeping. It is a partial match, not definitive, but close enough to warrant investigation." Victoria's reflection stared back at her from the glass, hard and unreadable. The mask she had worn for so long, it had fused to her skin. But beneath it, something ancient and feral stirred. Something that remembered the weight of newborns in her arms, the sound of their first cries, the smell of milk and soap and innocence. Her pups stolen, erased, and scattered like seeds in the wind. "She does not know," Victoria said. "No," Arthur confirmed. Her adoption records list her parents as dying in a car accident when she was 3. She has no memory of anything before that, no reason to question her identity. Victoria's hands curled into fists. And the people who raised her? A foster family, low income, no connections to organized crime. They took her in and treated her well enough, but there is no indication they knew anything about her real history. Victoria turned. Then who arranged it? Arthur's silence was answer enough. Someone powerful, someone with resources, someone who had spent years covering tracks, paying off doctors, and burying evidence so thoroughly even Victoria's network had not found it. "Pull everything," Victoria said. "I want every record, every transaction, every name connected to that adoption agency. I want to know who signed the papers, who approved the transfers, and who moved the money." "Already on it," Arthur said. "But boss, there is something else." Victoria waited. "The Omega Elena. She has been under surveillance for the past 6 months." Victoria's blood went cold. "By who?" "Do not know yet. Professional work, minimal footprint. But someone has been watching her apartment, tracking her movements, and following her to shoots. Whoever it is, they are careful. Too careful." Victoria's mind raced. If someone had been watching Elena, they knew she would be at the Onyx tonight. They knew she would be vulnerable. They knew she would be close enough to Victoria to trigger exactly this kind of response. "It was a setup," she said quietly. Arthur nodded. "That is my read. Someone wanted you to notice her. They wanted to see what you would do." Victoria's jaw tightened. Then they are about to get exactly what they wanted. She crossed to her desk, pulling open a drawer and removing a handgun, sleek, black, and loaded. She checked the chamber with practiced efficiency, then holstered it beneath her jacket. "Where is she now?" Victoria asked. "Home. We have eyes on her building. 2 teams rotating shifts. She has not left since we sent her back." "Good." Victoria straightened. "I want her protected. Quietly. She does not know we are there, and she does not need to. But if anyone so much as looks at her wrong, I want to know immediately." Arthur's expression shifted, something almost like concern crossing his face. "Boss, if this is what I think it is, if she really is one of them, you need to be careful. Whoever took them knows you will move heaven and earth to get them back. They will use that against you." Victoria met his gaze, and for the first time in years let him see the raw, unfiltered emotion beneath the ice. "Let them try." She moved toward the door, then paused. "And Arthur, find out who has been watching her. I want a name by morning." He nodded. "What are you going to do?" Victoria's smile was cold and sharp, the kind that had made men twice her size back down without a fight. "I am going to make sure she stays alive long enough for me to find out the truth." She left the office, her footsteps echoing through the empty hallway. Behind her, Arthur pulled out his phone, already making calls and already mobilizing resources. But as Victoria stepped into the elevator, her reflection caught in the polished steel doors. She allowed herself one moment of vulnerability, one moment to remember the weight of 3 tiny bodies in her arms, one moment to feel the grief she had locked away. Then the doors closed, and the mask slid back into place. Because Victoria Sterling did not grieve, she hunted. Chapter 4. Elena's apartment smelled like coffee and dark room chemicals. She stumbled inside, locking the door behind her, then checking it twice more before her hands stopped shaking. The ride home had been silent, the driver professional and distant. But the entire time she had felt watched, followed like invisible eyes tracked her every movement. Paranoia, she told herself. Just nerves. But when she looked out her window, she saw the same black car parked across the street that had been there when she left. Coincidence? Maybe. Probably. She pulled the blinds shut anyway. Her phone buzzed. Sarah asked, "You good?" Elena stared at the message, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Was she good? She had kissed a crime boss on a dare, been escorted out of a bar by armed men, and been sent home in a car she did not call. Good felt like a stretch. "Yeah, just tired. Talk tomorrow." She set the phone down and moved to her desk where her camera sat waiting. Photography had always been her escape, the one thing she could control when everything else felt chaotic. She pulled up the photos from yesterday's shoot, a series on urban decay, abandoned buildings reclaimed by nature. Beautiful, haunting, and lonely, like her. Elena's gaze drifted to the stack of papers beside her keyboard. Adoption records she had requested months ago, chasing a curiosity she could not quite explain. The documents were sparse and generic. Her parents, the ones who had raised her, had died when she was 3. A car accident, no other family. She had bounced through foster care until a couple in Queens took her in at 5. But there were gaps, missing months, and inconsistencies in dates that did not quite line up. She had asked her foster mother about it once. The woman had smiled, patted her hand, and said records from that era were always messy. Nothing to worry about. Elena had believed her. But tonight, staring at the files, something felt wrong. She pulled out the birth certificate. Her name, her birth date, the hospital where she was supposedly born, all standard. But the paper felt too new, the ink too crisp, like it had been printed recently instead of 2 decades ago. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Elena's stomach dropped. She almost did not answer, almost let it go to voicemail, but her thumb moved on its own. "Hello?" Silence. Not dead air, not a dropped call. Just silence, the kind where someone was there breathing and listening. "Who is this?" Elena demanded, her voice sharper than she felt. The line clicked off. Her hands shook. She blocked the number, then checked her locks again, checked the windows, and checked the peephole. Nothing. No one. Just her imagination running wild because she had made one stupid mistake at a bar. She forced herself to breathe and to think rationally. Victoria Sterling was a powerful woman. She probably had people checking on everyone who interacted with her. This was just due diligence, nothing personal. But then why did it feel personal? Elena grabbed her camera, needing to do something with her hands, and scrolled through old photos, faces she had captured over the years. Strangers on subways, kids playing in parks, and couples arguing on street corners. She stopped on one from 6 months ago, a man in a dark coat standing across the street from her building. She had noticed him that day because he had been there when she left for a shoot. And again, when she came back, she had assumed he lived nearby and thought nothing of it. But now, scrolling further, she found him again. Different day, different coat, same face. And again, 3 weeks later, and again. Her chest tightened. She pulled up more photos, scanning backgrounds and searching crowds. There and there, always at a distance, always watching. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She did not answer this time. It rang again and again. Elena turned it off, her hands shaking so hard she almost dropped it. Someone had been following her for months, and she had been too oblivious. too caught up in her own struggles to notice. A knock sounded at her door. Elena froze. 3 sharp raps, deliberate and controlled. She crept to the peephole, her heart slamming against her ribs. A woman stood in the hallway. She looked to be in her mid-30s, wearing a professional suit with a calm expression. "Miss Vance?" the woman called. "My name is Abigail. I work for Miss Sterling. She asked me to check on you." Elena's blood turned to ice. "I am fine," she called back, her voice shaking. "You can go." "Miss Sterling was concerned. She wanted to make sure you got home safely." "I did. Thank you. Good night." Silence. Then, "Miss Vance, I am going to leave my card under your door. If you need anything at all, please call, day or night." Elena watched through the peephole as the woman crouched, slid something beneath the door, and walked away. She waited until the footsteps faded before picking up the card. It was plain white, just a phone number embossed in black. No name, no company, and no explanation. Elena's hands trembled as she turned it over. On the back, written in precise handwriting, it said, "You are being watched. We are watching them." Chapter 5. Julian Thorne did not raise his voice. He never needed to. Power, real power, whispered. It moved through silence, through the spaces between words, and through the careful arrangement of facts that made lies feel like truth. He sat in his office, minimalist and expensive, designed to make visitors feel small, and studied the photograph on his desk. A young woman with soft eyes and nervous hands. Omega, unremarkable and forgettable. Except she was not. "How long has Victoria been watching her?" Julian asked. His assistant, a sharp-eyed beta named Claire, consulted her tablet. "Surveillance started approximately 18 hours ago. Multiple teams, professional setup, they are being cautious." Julian smiled. Cautious meant Victoria was not certain yet. Cautious meant there was still time. "And our people?" "We pulled back as instructed. We are maintaining distance. No direct contact." "Good." Julian leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled. "Let her think she is in control. Let her believe she is protecting the girl." Claire's expression did not shift, but Julian caught the edge of concern in her eyes. "Sir, if Sterling confirms the connection, she will not—" Julian interrupted. "Not yet. The records are buried too deep. Even with her resources, it will take weeks to unravel, and by then, it will not matter." He stood, crossing to the window. Outside, the city sprawled beneath him, lights glittering like fallen stars. He had built his empire carefully and methodically, one stolen life at a time. Omegas mostly, the ones no one would miss, the ones the system had already failed. Elena Vance had been one of his earliest acquisitions. A test case, a proof of concept. Take a child young enough that memory would not stick. Place them with families desperate enough not to ask questions. Forge documents so thoroughly even government databases accepted them as truth. It had worked beautifully until now. "The doctor was a liability," Julian said quietly. "I should have dealt with him years ago." "He is dead now," Claire offered. "Yes, but he talked first." Julian's jaw tightened. "And now Victoria has names. Not proof, not yet, but names. What do you want me to do?" Julian turned, meeting her gaze. "Bring Elena to me." Claire's eyes widened slightly. "Sir, if we move now, Sterling will know. She will retaliate." "She will retaliate regardless," Julian said. "The moment she confirms Elena's identity, she will come for me. Better to control the situation now on my terms than wait for her to dictate the rules." "You want to use the girl as leverage?" Julian's smile was cold and precise. "I want to remind Victoria that power is not about who has the most resources. It is about who is willing to use them. Claire hesitated. And if the girl resists? She will not. Julian returned to his desk, pulling up a file on his computer. Elena's entire life was documented in clinical detail. Every job, every relationship, and every financial struggle. She has been conditioned to obey, to trust authority, and to believe the world is fundamentally good, even when it is not. He clicked through photos. Elena at 8, smiling at a school function. Elena at 16, holding a camera for the first time. Elena last week, struggling to pay rent. She does not even know who she is, Julian continued. And that makes her the perfect tool. Claire's tablet buzzed. She glanced at it, then looked up. Sterling's people just left Elena's building? The Omega is alone? Julian's smile widened. Then let us not keep her waiting. He stood, straightening his jacket. Send Robert and Diana. Tell them to be gentle. No marks, no trauma. I want her calm when she wakes up. And if Victoria's surveillance catches them? They will not. Julian crossed to a cabinet, removing a small black case. Inside, vials of clear liquid gleamed under the office lights. This will make sure she comes quietly. No struggle, no memory of the transition. She will wake up here, confused, but unharmed. Claire took the case, her expression unreadable. You are betting everything on this? No, Julian corrected. I am betting on Victoria's weakness. She has spent years searching for her pups, years drowning in guilt. The moment she realizes Elena might be one of them, she will stop thinking strategically. She will act emotionally. He moved toward the door, pausing at the threshold. And emotional people make mistakes. Claire followed him into the hallway. What about the other two? Justin Miller and the third name. Leave them for now, Julian said. One hostage is enough, and if Victoria wants the others, she will have to negotiate. With what? Julian's eyes glittered. Her empire, her reputation, and everything she has built. I will take it all, piece by piece, until there is nothing left but the choice between her power and her pups. They reached the elevator. As the doors opened, Claire spoke quietly. She will kill you for this. Julian stepped inside, his smile never wavering. She will try. The doors closed, and he descended into the garage where his car waited. Robert and Diana were already there, professionals who had worked for him for years. They asked no questions and showed no hesitation. Julian handed them the vials. 2 hours, no complications. Robert nodded. And after we bring her in? Lock her in the East Wing. Keep her comfortable and safe. I want her to feel like a guest, not a prisoner. Until? Diana asked. Julian climbed into the back seat. Until Victoria Sterling realizes the woman she has been hunting is sitting in my cage. The car pulled out into the night, and Julian leaned back, closing his eyes. He had been planning this for years, waiting for the moment Victoria's past would catch up to her, waiting for the perfect leverage. And now, because of one impulsive kiss in a bar, he had it. Chapter 6. The blood was still wet. Victoria stood in the center of Elena's apartment, her boots crunching over broken glass, and felt the world narrow to a single point of rage so pure it burned white-hot behind her ribs. The camera lay shattered against the wall. The desk had been overturned. Papers were scattered like dead leaves across the floor. And there on the hardwood near the door, 3 drops of crimson. Not enough to kill, just enough to mark a struggle. Arthur appeared in the doorway, his phone pressed to his ear, barking orders into the line. Lock down every exit within a 5-mile radius. I want traffic cameras pulled for the last hour. Someone moved her. Find out how." Victoria crouched, her fingertips hovering over the blood without touching it. The scent hit her immediately. Omega distress, sharp and metallic, laced with fear, so thick it coated the back of her throat. Elena had fought. Not much, not long, but enough to leave evidence. "Boss," Arthur said quietly. "We were 2 minutes late." The surveillance team reported movement, but by the time they reached the door— 2 minutes. Victoria's voice came out flat and dead. 2 minutes, and she is gone. She stood, turning slowly and cataloging every detail. The window was still locked from the inside. The door showed no signs of forced entry. Whoever took Elena had access, had keys, and had walked in like they belonged, or Elena had opened the door herself. Victoria's jaw clenched. She crossed to the desk, scanning the scattered papers, adoption records, birth certificates, photographs of buildings, streets, strangers, and one photo that made her stop breathing. A man in a dark coat, distant and blurred, but unmistakable. Robert Holay, one of Julian Thorne's top enforcers. Victoria's hands curled into fists so tight, her nails bit into her palms. She had known Julian was involved, known he had been circling for years, waiting for an opening. But this, stealing Elena right out from under her protection. This was a declaration. "Get me everything on Thorne," Victoria said, her voice low and lethal. "Every property, every account, and every person who has taken his money in the last decade. I want his entire operation mapped by morning." Arthur hesitated. "Boss, if we move too fast?" Victoria turned, and whatever he saw in her eyes made him step back. "They took what was mine," she said, each word precise as a blade. "So, I will take everything from them." She moved toward the door, but paused at the threshold, her gaze falling on a small card lying near the entrance. It was white and plain, the one Abigail had left. Victoria picked it up, turning it over, and her own handwriting stared back at her. "You are being watched. We are watching them." A promise she had failed to keep. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Victoria answered without speaking. Silence stretched for 3 seconds. Then a voice, smooth and controlled, filled the line. "Miss Sterling, I believe you are missing something." Julian Thorne. Victoria's grip tightened on the phone. "Where is she?" "Safe," Julian said. "Comfortable and unharmed, for now." "For now," Victoria repeated, her voice glacial. "I am not a monster," Julian continued. "I do not hurt innocents without reason, but I am a businessman. And right now, you have something I want. Name it. Your empire. Step down. Dissolve the Sterling Syndicate. Transfer your assets to a neutral third party. Do that, and the girl goes home. Refuse and..." "And what?" Victoria cut in. "You will kill her? The moment you do, you lose your only leverage. You are smarter than that, Thorne." Julian laughed softly. "You are right. I will not kill her. But there are worse things than death, Miss Sterling. You of all people should know that." Victoria's chest constricted. Memories surfaced. Hospital rooms, empty cribs, and the sound of her own screaming when they told her the pups were gone. "You have 48 hours, Julian said. "After that, Elena disappears. Not dead, just gone. Erased. The way I erased her before." The line went dead. Victoria stood motionless, her phone still pressed to her ear, the apartment silent except for Arthur's quiet breathing behind her. Then she moved fast, controlled and lethal. She grabbed her jacket from where she had left it draped over a chair, checked the weapon holstered beneath it, and headed for the door. Boss, where are you going? Arthur asked. Victoria did not slow down. To remind Julian Thorne why people do not steal from me. You cannot just storm his properties. He is expecting that. It is a trap. Victoria paused at the door, glancing back. For the first time in years, Arthur saw the mask slip. He saw the raw, feral grief beneath the ice. Let it be a trap, she said. I will burn it down anyway. She left the apartment, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. Behind her, Arthur pulled out his phone and made a call. Mobilize everyone. The boss is going to war. Chapter 7. Elena woke to silk. Not rough fabric, not restraints, just smooth, expensive sheets against her skin and the faint smell of lavender in the air. Her head felt heavy, her thoughts moving through mud. She blinked, trying to focus, and found herself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. It had high, ornate crown molding she could not afford in 3 lifetimes. Panic spiked through the fog. She sat up too fast, the room tilting sideways. Her hands flew out, gripping the mattress, waiting for the nausea to pass. Where was she? The last thing she remembered was her apartment, the card under the door, and the photograph of the man who had been following her. Then nothing. Elena's hands shook as she looked around. The room was beautiful and tasteful. A plush armchair sat near the window. Bookshelves lined one wall. A door stood slightly ajar, revealing a marble bathroom. This was not a cell. This was a guest room. She stood on unsteady legs, crossing to the window and pulled back the curtain. Bars. They were elegant and decorative, but unmistakably bars. Her stomach dropped. The door opened behind her. Elena spun, her heart hammering, and found herself facing a woman in a crisp suit. She looked to be in her mid-30s, professional, the kind of person who scheduled appointments and managed calendars and never raised her voice. Miss Vance, the woman said, I am glad you are awake. My name is Claire. Mr. Thorne asked me to make sure you were comfortable. Elena's throat closed. Who is Mr. Thorne? Claire's expression did not shift. The man who has been keeping you safe? Safe? Elena's voice cracked. I woke up in a locked room. That is not safe. That is kidnapping. I understand you are confused, Claire said calmly. But I assure you, you are not in danger. Mr. Thorne simply wanted to speak with you privately, away from outside influences. Outside influences? Elena repeated. You mean my life? My home? Claire stepped into the room, her hands clasped in front of her. Miss Vance, there are things about your past you do not know, things that have been kept from you. Mr. Thorne wants to help you understand. Elena backed toward the window, her pulse racing. I do not know who he is. I do not know what you want. Just let me go. Soon, Claire said, after you speak with him. And if I refuse? Claire's smile was polite and empty. That is not really an option. The door opened wider, and a man stepped inside. Tall, composed, and wearing an expensive suit that probably cost more than Elena's entire wardrobe. His face was unremarkable, pleasant even, but his eyes were cold and calculating. Julian Thorne. Miss Vance, he said, his voice smooth as glass. I apologize for the dramatic introduction, but given the circumstances, discretion was necessary. Elena's hands curled into fists. You drugged me. You brought me here against my will. That is not discretion. That is felony kidnapping. Julian's smile did not waver. You are right, and under normal circumstances, I would never resort to such methods. But these are not normal circumstances. He crossed to the armchair, settling into it like he owned the world, like Elena's fear was just another inconvenience to manage. Do you know who Victoria Sterling is? He asked. Elena's chest tightened. I have heard the name. She is dangerous, Julian continued. Ruthless. She built her empire on violence and intimidation, and right now she is looking for you. Why would she? Because you kissed her, Julian interrupted. And in doing so, you triggered something she has been searching for, something she is willing to destroy cities to reclaim. Elena's mind raced. None of this made sense. She was nobody, a photographer barely scraping by. Why would someone like Victoria care? I do not understand, she whispered. Julian leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Tell me, Miss Vance, what do you know about your adoption? The question hit like ice water. What? Your parents died when you were 3, a car accident. You were placed in foster care, then adopted by a family in Queens, correct? Elena's throat tightened. How do you know that? Because I arranged it, Julian said quietly. The room tilted. You are lying, Elena breathed. I wish I were. Julian stood, crossing to the window. 24 years ago, I was approached by someone very powerful. Someone who needed certain problems to disappear. Children specifically, Omega children who were supposed to be dead. Elena's hands shook. No. You were one of 3, Julian continued. Taken from a hospital, records falsified, and placed with families who would not ask questions. I was paid very well to make sure no one ever found you. You are insane, Elena said, her voice breaking. This is insane. Julian turned, meeting her gaze. Is it? Or does it explain the gaps in your records, the inconsistencies, the feeling you have always had that something does not quite fit? Elena's knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the bed, fighting to stay upright. Victoria Sterling is your biological mother, Julian said. And the moment she confirms that, she will come for you. Not because she cares, but because you are a piece of the empire she lost, a tool she can use to reclaim power. No, Elena whispered. That is not. She would not. She has killed for less, Julian interrupted, and she will kill again to get what she wants. That is why you are here, not as a prisoner, but as protection. Elena looked up, tears burning her eyes. Then let me go. Let me decide for myself. Julian's expression softened, almost kind, almost human. I cannot do that, he said, because if I let you go, Victoria will claim you, and you will never be free again. He moved toward the door, pausing at the threshold. Rest, Miss Vance. We will talk more tomorrow. The door closed and locked. Elena collapsed onto the bed, her chest heaving and her mind screaming. Victoria Sterling, her mother. It could not be true, but somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and confusion, a small voice whispered, "What if it is?" Chapter 8. Victoria's phone lit up with 12 simultaneous alerts. She stood in the war room of her headquarters, a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, where her inner circle gathered when things went sideways. Maps covered the walls. Computer screens glowed with surveillance feeds. Armed men and women moved with quiet efficiency, preparing for what came next. Arthur appeared at her side, tablet in hand. We have confirmed Thorne's primary locations. 3 properties in Manhattan, 2 in Jersey, and 1 upstate. All are heavily fortified. She is in Manhattan, Victoria said, her eyes locked on the map. He would keep her close where he can control the narrative. The penthouse on 5th Avenue, Arthur suggested. Private floors, top security. He has been using it as his main operations hub for the last year. Victoria nodded. Assemble a team, small and fast. We go in tonight. Boss, if we hit him directly, he will retaliate. We do not know what kind of contingencies he has set up. If there is... Victoria interrupted. Arthur's expression shifted. You are certain? Victoria did not answer. She could not explain the bone-deep certainty that had settled in her chest the moment Julian hung up. The same instinct that had kept her alive through decades of violence and betrayal. Her pup was close. She felt it. What about the other alphas? Arthur asked carefully. They are watching. If you move against Thorn without consensus, let them watch, Victoria said. This is not pack business. This is mine. A voice cut through the room from the doorway. Is it? Victoria turned. Dominic Moretti stood there, his arms crossed and his expression unreadable. He was the alpha of the Moretti family, with control over half the city's construction contracts, and one of the few people who had ever challenged Victoria to her face and lived. This is private, Dominic, Victoria said. Not anymore. Dominic stepped into the room, his presence shifting the energy. Word is out. You are mobilizing. Going after Thorn? That affects everyone. It affects me, Victoria corrected. You are claiming the Omega, Dominic said bluntly. The one from the Onyx Lounge. People are talking, wondering why the Ice Queen suddenly cares about some random photographer. Victoria's jaw tightened. That is none of their concern. It is when you are about to start a war over it. Dominic moved closer, lowering his voice. Victoria, I have known you 15 years. You do not move like this. You do not risk exposure. You do not let emotion dictate strategy. So, what is really going on? For a moment, Victoria considered lying, deflecting, and maintaining the mask. But Dominic had earned honesty even when it hurt. She is my daughter, Victoria said quietly. The room went silent. Dominic's eyes widened. The pups, the ones you lost? They were not dead, Victoria finished. They were stolen, sold, and erased, and Thorn was the one who arranged it. Dominic exhaled slowly. You are sure? DNA confirmed it. A partial match, but enough. Victoria's hands clenched. She does not know. She thinks she is just some Omega photographer who made a bad choice at a bar. She has no idea what she is or what was taken from her. And Thorn is using her to force me out. He wants my empire. He thinks I will trade it for her safety. Dominic's expression darkened. Will you? Victoria met his gaze. I would burn the world first. Silence stretched between them. Then Dominic nodded. What do you need? Victoria blinked. You are offering help? I am offering solidarity, Dominic corrected. What Thorn did, stealing pups and trafficking Omegas, that is a line even I will not cross. You go after him, you will not go alone. Victoria felt something crack inside her chest, something she had locked away years ago. Thank you, she said quietly. Dominic's smile was sharp. Do not thank me yet. If this goes wrong, we are all going down. He turned to Arthur. What is the plan? Arthur pulled up schematics on the screen. 5th Avenue penthouse, top 3 floors, private elevator access, security estimated at 15 armed personnel. Thorn's personal office is on the highest level. And Elena? Victoria asked. Unknown, but if she is there, she would be in the guest quarters, East Wing, away from operations. Victoria studied the layout. Her mind was calculating angles, timing, and risk. We cannot go in loud, she said. He will use her as a shield. We need access, quiet and fast. I can get you inside, a new voice said. Everyone turned. Abigail stood in the doorway, still in the suit she had worn to the apartment, but her expression was different now, harder and determined. I worked for Thorn 3 years ago, she continued. Before I came to you. I knew the building, knew the rotations, and knew the blind spots. Victoria's eyes narrowed. You never mentioned that. You never asked. Abigail stepped forward. I left because I saw what he was doing. The trafficking, the erasers. I could not be part of it anymore, but I kept tabs, just in case. In case of what? Arthur demanded. In case he came for someone I cared about. Abigail's gaze locked on Victoria. Let me help. I owe that girl a chance. Victoria studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Show us the entry points. Abigail moved to the screen, pulling up architectural overlays. Service entrance on the south side. It is an old building, pre-war construction. Thorne updated security everywhere except here. He figured no one would use it. Can you bypass the locks? Victoria asked. I already have the codes. Arthur frowned. That is convenient. That is preparation. Abigail shot back. I have been waiting for this, for someone to finally go after him. Victoria's phone buzzed. Another message, another threat. She ignored it. We move at midnight, she said. Small team, Abigail, Arthur and me. Dominic, I need you running interference. Keep the other alphas distracted. Make sure no one interferes. Dominic nodded. Done. Victoria turned to the room. Everyone else, stand by positions. If this goes sideways, I want extraction ready. The team dispersed, moving with practiced efficiency. Victoria remained at the map, staring at the building where her daughter was being held. Arthur approached quietly. Boss, if she does not remember you, if she does not believe, she does not have to believe. Victoria interrupted. She just has to survive long enough for me to get her out. She checked her weapon one last time, then headed for the exit. Behind her, Arthur watched, knowing exactly what this meant. Victoria Sterling was about to become the monster everyone feared. And God help anyone who stood in her way. Chapter 9. Elena pressed her ear against the door. Voices filtered through. They were low and controlled, too far away to make out words. She had been locked in for hours. No clock, no phone, just the slow crawl of shadows across the floor as daylight faded outside the barred window. Her mind kept circling back to Julian's words. Victoria Sterling is your biological mother. It could not be true. Her parents died in a car accident. She remembered fragments, flashing lights, a social worker's gentle voice, and the smell of hospitals. But what if those were not her parents? What if everything she remembered was just the lie she had been fed? Elena's hands shook as she moved to the bookshelf, scanning titles without really seeing them. She needed anything to distract from the terror clawing at her chest. Then she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, multiple people moving fast. She backed away from the door, her pulse hammering. The footsteps stopped. Voices murmured. They were too quiet to understand. Then silence. Elena held her breath. The lock clicked. The door opened. 2 guards stood there. It was not Claire or Julian, just men in dark suits with blank expressions. Come with us, one said. Why? Elena demanded. Mr. Thorne wants to see you. I do not want to see him. The guard's expression did not change. That was not a request. They stepped into the room and Elena realized she had no choice. She could fight, scream, and struggle, but it would not matter. These men were professionals, trained and paid to handle resistance. She walked between them, her chin raised, refusing to show fear even as her heart threatened to explode. They led her through hallways that felt endless. There was expensive art on the walls and marble floors, the kind of wealth that did not need to announce itself. Finally, they stopped outside a heavy wooden door. One guard knocked. A voice inside answered. The door opened. Julian sat behind a desk reviewing documents. He did not look up immediately. He just finished whatever he was reading, set it aside, and then met her gaze. Miss Vance, please sit. Elena remained standing. I want to go home. Soon, Julian said. But first, there is something you need to understand. You have said enough. No. Julian stood, crossing to a filing cabinet. He pulled out a folder and placed it on the desk. I have told you the truth. Now I will show you the proof. Elena's stomach twisted. She did not want to look. She did not want to see whatever he was about to reveal. But her feet moved anyway, carrying her to the desk. Julian opened the folder. Inside were hospital records, blood work, DNA results, and photographs. 3 infants, tiny and wrapped in hospital blankets, and standing over them, holding one in her arms, was Victoria Sterling, younger and softer, but unmistakable. Elena's breath caught. These are the pups, Julian said quietly. The ones Victoria lost 24 years ago? The ones she has been searching for ever since. Elena's hands trembled as she picked up one of the photos. The infant in Victoria's arms had a small birthmark on her left shoulder, crescent-shaped. Elena's fingers moved to her own shoulder. The same mark? The one she had had her entire life. No, she whispered. I am sorry, Julian said, and for once he almost sounded sincere. But you needed to know. Elena's vision blurred. She gripped the desk, fighting to stay upright. Why? She managed. Why take us? Why lie? Julian's expression hardened. Because Victoria Sterling is not a mother. She is a warlord. She builds her power on fear and violence. Those pups were not children to her. They were leverage, tools to expand her empire. You are lying. Am I? Julian gestured to the files. Look at what she has built. Look at the people she has destroyed. You think someone like that deserves to raise children? Elena's chest heaved. And you do? You stole us, sold us, and erased us. I saved you, Julian corrected. I gave you a chance at a normal life, away from her world and away from the violence. By lying to me for 24 years? By protecting you from a truth that would have destroyed you. Elena looked at the photos again, at the woman holding the infant, at the exhaustion in Victoria's eyes, and the way her hand cradled the tiny head so carefully. That was not the face of a warlord. That was the face of a mother. She is coming for me, is she not? Elena whispered. Julian nodded. She is probably already on her way. And you are going to use me, trade me like I am just another piece on your board. I am going to give you a choice, Julian said. Stay here safe where she cannot reach you, or go back to her and become part of the empire she has built on blood. Elena's hands curled into fists. That is not a choice. That is a threat. Julian's smile was cold. Welcome to the real world, Miss Vance, where choices are just pretty words for survival. He gestured to the guards. Take her back to her room. Make sure she is comfortable. The guards moved forward, but before they could reach her, the lights went out. Complete darkness. Shouts erupted from the hallway, running footsteps, and the crack of gunfire. Julian cursed, pulling a weapon from his desk drawer. Lock this place down now. But it was already too late. The door exploded inward, wood splintering, and through the smoke and chaos stepped a figure Elena recognized instantly. Victoria Sterling, with blood on her hands, fury in her eyes, and her gaze locked on Elena like she was the only thing left in the world. Chapter 10. Victoria moved like death, silent, efficient, and unstoppable. The guards went down before they even reached for their weapons. Abigail swept in behind her, covering the exits. Arthur secured the hallway, but Victoria only saw Elena standing there, trembling and alive, her pup. Step away from her, Victoria said, her voice deadly calm. Julian raised his weapon, aiming it at Elena's head. One more step, and I end this. Victoria froze. The room held its breath. You will not, Victoria said. She is your only leverage. Kill her, and you have nothing. Maybe. Julian's finger tightened on the trigger. But neither will you. Elena's eyes darted between them, terror and confusion warring on her face. Elena, Victoria said quietly, never taking her gaze off Julian. I need you to trust me. I do not even know you, Elena whispered. I know, but I am going to get you out of here. I promise. Promises mean nothing, Julian interjected. Tell her the truth, Victoria. Tell her what you really want. Victoria's jaw clenched. I want my daughter back. Elena's breath hitched. Your weapon, Julian continued, his voice raw. Your tool, your leverage. That is what you think, is it not, Thorn? That I will use her the way you used her. Will you not? Julian challenged. Victoria's gaze finally shifted to Elena, and in that moment, the mask shattered completely. No, she said. I will not, because I lost you once. I lost all three of you, and I have spent every day since trying to find you. Not to use you, but to save you. Tears streamed down Elena's face. You are lying. I am not. Victoria's voice broke. I held you when you were born. I sang to you. I promised I would keep you safe, and I failed. But I will not fail again. Julian laughed bitterly. Touching, but it does not change what you are. You are right, Victoria said. It does not. I have killed. I have destroyed. I have built an empire on fear. But I did it to survive, to find you. And if I have to burn the rest of it down to keep you safe, I will. She lowered her weapon completely. Elena gasped. What are you doing? Making a choice, Victoria said. Thorn, you want my empire? Take it, all of it. Every contract, every territory, and every asset. Just let her walk out of here. Julian's eyes widened. You are serious? Dead serious. Silence. Then Julian smiled. You would give up everything for her? Yes. He lowered his weapon. That is the difference between us, Victoria. I would never be that weak. It is not weakness, Victoria said. It is love. The word hung in the air like a prayer. Julian moved toward the door, weapon still in hand. You have made your choice. Now live with it. He disappeared into the hallway. Victoria lunged forward, pulling Elena behind her and shielding her with her own body. Abigail appeared in the doorway. The building is clear. Thorn is gone. We need to move. Victoria nodded, but did not let go of Elena. Come with me, she said quietly. Please. Elena looked up at her, at the woman who claimed to be her mother, at the eyes that held grief and hope and desperation. I do not know if I can trust you, Elena whispered. I know. Victoria's hand trembled as she brushed hair from Elena's face. But I will spend the rest of my life proving you can. Footsteps thundered in the distance. Reinforcements or worse? We are out of time, Arthur warned. Victoria stood, offering her hand. Elena stared at it, at the blood on Victoria's knuckles, at the scars that told stories she did not know yet. Then she took it. Victoria's fingers closed around hers. And for the first time in 24 years, the Ice Queen felt warmth. They ran through hallways, down stairwells, past bodies and broken doors. Abigail led them to the service entrance. A black SUV waited, its engine running. They piled inside. The door slammed shut. The vehicle roared into the night. Elena sat beside Victoria, still holding her hand and still shaking. Where are we going? She asked. Victoria looked at her, really looked at her, at the daughter she had lost and the woman she had become. Somewhere safe, Victoria said. Somewhere I can tell you everything, and then you decide. Stay, go, whatever you need. I will not force you. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You gave up your empire for me. I would give up more, Victoria said simply. You are my daughter. Nothing else matters. The SUV sped through the city, lights blurring past. Behind them, Julian watched from his office window, his phone to his ear. Let them go, he said. For now. The voice on the other end asked a question. Julian smiled. Because this is not over. She thinks she won, but she just showed me exactly how to break her. He hung up, and in the darkness, he began planning his next move. Across the city in the back of the SUV, Elena finally let herself breathe. She looked at Victoria, at the woman who had destroyed an empire for her, and whispered the question that would change everything. What happens now? Victoria's eyes gleamed with fierce determination. Now, she said, I find your siblings, and then we end this together. The SUV disappeared into the night, and somewhere 2 other young people, unaware of their past and unaware of the blood in their veins, felt a shift they could not explain. A call they did not understand. A pull towards something they did not know they had lost. The Sterling legacy was not dead. It was just beginning.